Hello lovely people and welcome back after a long time without posting anything. I promised you a second part of the fire tutorial and finally we want to do that today. This time we want to cover fireballs. And I would say, let's start with it. Okay, so we got our empty canvas and as always we would like to start with a basic ground sketch. So let's pick our standard hard round brush and start very loosely sketching something that could look like a fireball. So I want the fireball coming from the sky from the right side and going down to the left. So what I want to keep in mind here is that we have the head of the ball that is in the front, the heavy part of it, the meta you can say, followed by a stream or a tail of flames and fire and energy and particles. Okay, so we want to have something more or less solid in the bottom left and something that looks a little bit more like fire on the right side. As always, don't be too detailed here. Just loose lines and a very rough loose sketch. Everything else we can change later with shapes and with cutting out some things. So just that we have an overview over what we want to paint in the end. And that the canvas is filled in a nice way. So I would say that looks nice. Let's try to find a shape with our lasso tool that looks like we want to have it. So there is not really a plan here. What I do is starting with something round in the bottom left and then creating some loose dynamic flame shape structures. I go for a neutral orange here because red and yellow is something we need later for defining the different heat locations. And I feel like that is not looking as much as a fireball I would like to have it. So I start already smoothing some things out here with a smudge finger. Okay, but it feels like somehow I cannot change too much here in this face. But having not too sharp edges here and there is a good start for now. So let's go for a little bit bigger size for the smudge finger. The problem always is that, at least in my program, it takes quite some time to render the action of the smudge finger if it's such a big size. But yeah, maybe you can achieve a similar effect if you just use the blur, the Gaussian blur, for example. But yeah, I find the smudge finger a little bit better here because you can define which areas you would like have to be blurred and which one not. Otherwise, you would have you might need to use a layer mask or a clipping mask for this kind of thing. Okay, as you can see, I added another layer and another shape inside the orange fireball we have so far, and it's a little bit more in the direction of yellow because we have the hottest part in the down. The head of the fireball should be the highest temperature. And the higher the temperature is, the more bright it should be. So with a soft round brush, we can now blend the different shapes into each other. For example, I have here the same yellow I used for the second shape in the head, and just paint some of it here and there very smoothly to make it a little bit more dynamic. A fire is never really sharp, right? Nowhere. It doesn't have sharp edges. Everything we create sharp here, every edge that we sharpen out is a stylistic choice. But if you would if you would take a picture of a fire, it never has some hard edges. Yeah, it looks like a fireball, but it still looks very lame somehow. So we need to change a few things. And the most effective thing for now is to add some red. So what I do is create a clipping mask on top of the shape mask we have already, and just add some red here and there. You can choose the overlay mode for that. You can choose the color mode. You can not choose any mode or the standard mode for that. The outcome is slightly different, but you should choose what you want to create in the end, what kind of effect you would like to see in your fireball. Same thing I do here with a yellow to make a little bit more glow, and you see the standard fire colors we have already in here. We have the bright yellow, we have the yellow orange color, neutral orange and red, and right now it looks already way more like fire than it did a few seconds before, right? Okay, so what we want to do now is we grab our smudge finger again, very small size, very high strength, and just try to create some smudges, some lines from the bottom left to the upper right, so that it looks like it's moving. So far we don't have this effect really. So create some lines all facing to the same direction, to the top right, and maybe it works well. Also, I'm not really sure if the shape is how the fireball would fall from the sky, so yeah. With the transformation tool and the what is it called, the transformation raster, I would say, you can transform and bend your shape as you wish, and that is besides the liquefying tool, is it a very nice way to adjust your shape in the way you would like to have it. Okay, another quite effective thing I realized is if you create very thin, flexible or dynamic lines like you see here and color them in yellow, or maybe try a brighter orange, that give the whole thing a little bit more impact. It feels like it's not only one tail following the fireball, it's more like the fireball is splitting into different parts, and those particles are also creating their own tails, their own streams. Somehow it got more impact through these little lines, in my opinion. So let's try to add an underglow. So I created a new layer under the layers I had already, and with a soft round brush I add some, okay, that might be a little bit too strong, but we can remove it later. Yeah, I just create a very smooth color under the fireball and see what works best. Maybe this red is not the best choice, but yeah, by erasing it a little bit more, what kind of works well. Let's try a different color. Or value. Yeah, I think that's fine. That's working very well. I think we can merge this down to one layer here. By the way, if you are not that safe with layers yet and with your painting process, I would suggest not merging layers too much. What you can do is dividing your layers in different folders according to what this layer is about. For example, solid shapes, could be in one folder, then special effects and blur effects can be in another folder, background stuff can be in another folder, so you have your main groups separated all the time. And if you merge one of those groups, then you don't have trouble with the ones you might not want to touch in the same way you touch the other ones, right? So let's try to make this fireball glow in a proper way. You see, the head is almost white now. It should be really hot here, and by expanding this white a little bit further through the whole body, the whole tail of the fireball, it got the feeling that it's not that much separated, that there's a hot temperature following, yeah, the whole object. And by using the smudge finger again and creating some kind of little, how do you say, little incorrectness on the bottom left of the fireball's head, it got the feeling it's not one hard surface that is coming down. It's more like a impulsive shape that is changing its shape also during falling the whole time. Might be a little bit much interpretation, but that is how I thought behind this process. And maybe you got the thought behind it. And I feel like it's going in the right direction now. I wasn't sure in the beginning if it works out the way I wanted to have it, but I think we can create a nice painting out of this here. So, like I said, the smudge finger is also really great in defining your shape in the way you want to have it. And here I just push a few corners, a few areas a little bit to a direction that I have the feeling it works best. And yeah, what is important as well is that you need to keep in mind that fire is not something solid. Neither it has sharp edges, like I said before already, nor does it have a real body. So working with transparency is a must if you paint fires or flames which are going a little bit in the direction of realism. So I'm adding here a line that, at least I thought so, would be a direction line behind the fireball. So one line that indicates which direction the fireball is falling. And yeah, I feel that works pretty well, because it looks like the flames are kind of circulating around this very strict line. Everything is moving, everything is kind of bending to the one or to the other side, and having one defined straight line, even if it's a little bit blurred or a little bit smudged out, then it still got the nice effect in my opinion. So grabbing my particle brush, I call it particle brush by now. In the earlier videos you will hear me calling it a sand brush, because that is the original reason I created it for sand and particles. but actually you can use it for so many other stuff. I used it in my snow tutorial. I used it for texture in my rock tutorial. What I do here is creating a layer and filling it with all the different locations I could imagine having particles. Then creating a layer mask, totally coloring it black so nothing is seen anymore, and then with a soft round brush and the white color painting on the black layer mask those areas where I really want to have some particles. In my opinion, or for me, it feels way more convenient than going to the particle brush immediately and trying to nail down the exact locations of the particles I want to have them. Yeah, those particles are coming really good. It's amazing what they do all the time with a painting. I have the same feeling in almost every situation I use particles. If they are placed in the right location and the right amount, it really feels great. Really looking good. So what's left is a glow of the hottest area in this fireball. Of course, I'm using the soft round brush here with white. You can think of another bright color, maybe a very bright yellow, but I really wanted to go for white here because, yeah, it creates a great contrast. And then erasing it with the soft round brush and delete mode, or creating a layer mask again and do the same process we did with the particles. And our fireball is glowing. Looks great. Okay, so with a little smudge finger, let's try to create some more direction lines where the fireball is coming from, falling from. I'm not sure if it's working out that well, but let's try it. Yeah, maybe a little bit. But I feel like we should not add too much of those. Okay, let's try to maybe have a line that goes from the head through the tail with a bright yellow. Something like we have in the very bottom layer. This kind of direction line we created earlier. And I think I like it. Yeah, looking nice. Yes, I'm happy with that so far. I think there's not that much anymore to do. Maybe adding some of those hard edges a little bit. You remember we created in the beginning? Maybe those might add something to the painting. Yeah, I think so. I like it. Okay, let's change the background for a little bit better contrast. So I imagine something more dark and maybe more reddish. That is already way better. Okay, and now we're adding some texture, some noise. So we create a new layer, filling it gray, then adding some noise through the filter, scale it up a little bit, create a layer mask, fill it black so that it's invisible, put the layer settings or the layer, what's it called? The layer effect on soft light, and now with a soft round brush and white color we paint on the black clipping mask, layer mask, some texture where we would like to have it. Especially on the darker places I like to let some texture appear, some noise, to let it seem a little bit more grainy. Yeah, people, and that's it. That's the Fireball tutorial. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it helpful. And yeah, please let me know in the comments what you would wish to see next, or what should I cover next. And see you in the next video. All the best. Bye bye.